Happy New Year, everybody. This is Soul. It is January 4th, 2019. This is Warcraft Weekly, and today's episode is brought to you by my dad, who just turned 74 yesterday. So, yeah, happy birthday, Dad. And yeah, wait till you get to my age. It gets rough, buddy. To ring in the new year, we still have quite a bit to talk about, including the Battle of Dazar'alor raid release schedule. We're going to take a look at this experiment that Blizzard is conducting, where you have to basically link your Twitch and your Battle.net thing together in order to chat in the Overwatch League, at least so far. We're going to see how that's going. We're going to talk about Ronco's escape plan, a cool toy that WoW had highlighted earlier this week and Blizzard destroyed, or did they? We're going to talk about more of the changes going on at Activision Blizzard, but is speculating on all this stuff, is it really constructive? And then, hopefully before the battery runs out, I'm going to talk about the upcoming year, what's going on with the channel, as well as the contest winner. Someone's going to get a BlizzCon goodie box thing. Yay! Bob is over at beautiful sun. Wait, what are you doing?
I'm fixing your thumbnail.
That's cool, although I usually do it after the video is done and I'm just kind of throwing stuff together.
Well, I have suggestions for improvements. Some text that's clickbaity, like, oh my god, everything is a disaster. And then put a WoW character who looks hurt. That's what all the good content creators do.
Yeah, but I don't know if disaster is like the most appropriate word.
Yeah, it is.
First, let's take a look at the Battle of Dazar'alor schedule. It's going to be a little bit weird. Now, we learned early on that the raid is going to be experienced slightly differently depending on your faction. This is only kind of sort of true. Let me explain, because the blog post that Blizzard put out is like super long, and at first, well, maybe it wasn't too hard to read, but it's a lot to read, and I'm just going to summarize it for you. The raid itself, of course, is going to open up January 22nd, and it's going to be split into 3 sections. The first section, comprised of 3 encounters, is going to be kind of like mirror images of each other. They're essentially going to be the same fights. They're just going to have different skins to them. The second section are going to be literally the same fights. It's just that the perspective is going to be different. So Alliance players are going to be playing through this normally, however Horde players are going to experience this from a different perspective. So depending on your race, you are going to be transformed into some sort of Alliance race and doing the same encounters as they are. The last section is vice versa. So Horde players are going to be playing it as themselves, Alliance players are going to be playing it from that Horde perspective. So essentially, when it comes to balancing everything out and things like the world first race, like let's pretend that method and limit that, assuming that they're going to be performing at a relatively the same level, they're pretty much going to be experiencing the fights the same way. You're not going to see an instance of, oh my god, Horde or Alliance bias. That's just not going to be a thing. I think that's in the interest of fairness and competition. Yeah, I think this is the best way to go. It seemed like at first there was going to be some sort of imbalance, as if the boss order was going to be different, and Blizzard has gone as far to say that that the competitive nature of the Mythic World First race isn't something that really factors in when it comes to the way they plan their encounters. I'm just going to consider it a coincidence that, hey, it just happened to work out this way. Thanks, Blizz. Blizzard is getting into Twitch moderation in, I don't know if it's a lazy way or not, but the other month, or last month, they talked about doing some sort of experiment. During the current Overwatch League semifinals, they're going to make it so that in order to talk in Twitch chat, you need to have merged your Twitch with your Battle.net account. There's a lot of speculation, bad feelings to be had, I suppose, but I wanted to take a look for myself and see just, well, what's it gonna be like. So I went over to the Overwatch League's Twitch channel and looked at some of their previous stuff, and, well, it doesn't look all that crazy. I mean, it's maybe the chat's a little bit slower than normal, but maybe it's because this isn't like, this is only like a semifinals, and so maybe it's not as exciting. I guess in one sense, it's not a bad thing to be able to have this sort of integration to handle low-hanging fruit, to be able to easily filter out like spammers. But I also imagine that Twitch moderation tools do a sufficient job of doing that on its own, or if anything, the critique would be focused on making the Twitch moderation tools better. But I'm not very fond of there being some sort of additional gate to prevent people from otherwise participating in this chat. It alienates potential viewers. Like if you're like, hey, what's this Overwatch stuff? You're starting to get into it and you feel like participating in the chat, then you find out, oh, I need a Battle.net account and I need to link it together. I don't have a Battle.net account. You know what? Screw it. I'm not going to bother with this crap. There are many of us who have already linked our Twitch and our Battle.net and all these other social media things together. You know, it's not a big deal for us, but for new people that are coming in, I'm not really feeling it as much. And in the end, come on, guys, it's just Twitch chat. Maybe I'm looking down on it. I'm sorry, I apologize, but in the context of esports or just sports in general, I see Twitch chat as just noise. It scrolls by super fast, and dude, I'm old. I have a hard enough time keeping up with the matches, let alone also taking a look at the chat and seeing how people are reacting. The other day, WoW had posted an article talking about Ronco's escape plan. It's a snazzy little toy that you get from a Horde quest line that gives you a bit of an advantage of Mythic Plus, because just like previous items, you can kind of take yourself out of combat for a few seconds in order to skip trash. I think it was just hours after posting this article, though, that Blizzard had nerfed this toy so that you can no longer use it in dungeons or raids or anything like that. You can only use it in the outdoor world. Bah. There are two critiques of Blizzard that I'm going to brush on in this case. One is that, well, they should have already learned this lesson. They've had items like this before. They've nerfed them before. So the expectation would be that if this comes back, then it shouldn't work in instances like Mythic Plus. So this leads into the other critique that now Blizzard is taking something away. They're removing fun. Oh no. And don't get me wrong, I'm just kind of briefly touching on those points, but I do stand by those critiques. It does suck that Blizzard messed up, and then taking it away just kind of messes things up a little bit more. However, typical me, there's a little bit more to think about when it comes to these otherwise fun and obscure toys that, if not for places like Wowhead or social media, MMO Champion, the super fast communication that social media and high-speed internet allows, that we wouldn't have known about little things like these. I'm trying to talk about this so-called industry of WoW, the legions of the fans, of who create add-ons. They run Wowhead, they make video content and guides, and they data mine the crap out of the game, to the point where just normal fans like you and I can explore and review and pass judgment even on this content before we even play it. This particular toy isn't super difficult to find. You just get it off of a vendor after you complete a Horde-based questline over in Vol'dun. And then once you get it, you can use it on any character you want, regardless of faction. But as a person who is especially just outside of the whole Mythic Plus circle, I definitely wouldn't have known about it if not for this article. If you look at the article, and I trust that a lot of folks have, especially Blizzard employees, hence, the change, haha. If you look at the early comments, before Blizzard had nerfed it, you would notice that there's a lot of complaints over, oh my god, it's so unfair, how come Alliance don't have access to this? Why isn't there an Alliance equivalent item that's accessible? Why do I have to play Horde, blah, 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 that sort of thing. The critiques over Blizzard screwing up these otherwise fun things like this toy or the hive mind mount and anything that gives that sort of competitive advantage, it comes from these sorts of comments. It's like, hey, they get to have that nice thing. I want to have that nice thing too. In the context of Mythic Plus, understandably, with this article giving this toy a mainstream kind of exposure, I would not put it past some groups to require this toy. It's like, you want to get in my group, you got to have that toy. You don't got it, get out. And that would lead to more complaints and critiques to Blizzard that, oh no, players have to go through the trouble of either making a Horde character and completing that questline to get the toy on their Alliance character, or they bitch more to Blizzard about needing to add this item to an Alliance vendor somewhere that's accessible the same way, or they would need to make another questline, or you know what, just nerf the item, screw it. The moral of the story is that the industry of WoW is awesome. It lets us fans help each other out, but also in a way it threatens the magic of what WoW has to offer. Even though this is supposed to be an MMO, sites like Wowhead and basically the way the gaming industry is these days, it's like the game is being crowd played. The whole thing on discovery and wonder is done for us. And it's readily available for viewing on YouTube or some guide that you can read with a step-by-step instruction. So when all this information is so readily available to us with just a Google search, all that's left is to just follow the instructions and retrieve your prize. So it's no wonder that there's a common critique that MMOs in general are just nothing but work because, well, it's because the exploration has already been done and we can just look that stuff up. So what's there left to do? The last major thing to talk about is some of the news coming out from Activision Blizzard that we've been seeing lately. 2 high-ranking executives, chief financial officers, have left the company or got fired, but they're basically working at other companies now. About 100 or so staff employees are going to be let go. They're being offered basically a paid severance to go off and find greener pastures. This isn't going to have a direct impact on whether or not Elemental Shaman are going to be good in the next patch, but with this being a reduction of support staff, it does risk compromising the quality of support as well as its reliability and availability. I'm going to make a really, really broad assumption here, so don't really take my word for it, but I can see something like this as partially it's probably because new technology allows for a certain automation. I mean, remember once upon a time we had to do a GM ticket if we accidentally vendored an epic item, and now we have a BattleNet service that allows us to restore items every 2 weeks or so. It's things like that allow for the reduction of staff and otherwise being able to streamline that business side of things, because customer service and support, that is arguably, at least according to things that I've read here and there, that's the biggest labor impact for Blizzard or otherwise any company that runs an MMO. It is more or less widely known that Activision Blizzard has been cutting costs here and there, but what is it going to mean for the world of Warcraft in the future? I'm not going to answer that one because it's very speculative. So instead I'm going to ask this question. Why am I talking about this? I am not saying to avoid the facts. Let's not avoid the facts. There is a lot of negative buzz going on about Blizzard, Activision Blizzard, with executives leaving and Mike being gone, the stock dropping, the layoffs, and so on and so forth. There's also a negative buzz about Battle for Azeroth, the expansion, the game. I think, though, that these are separate conversations to have, and I'm finding more and more that my counterparts, other content creators and such, are, I guess, distracted by this company level news that's I personally think is not only a waste of their time and talent, they can be doing more cool and fun stuff instead, but it also distracts you, the viewers at home and on the toilet, from getting good information. I mean, sure, it gets lots of clicks. I'm kind of envious. Man, they get a lot of clicks. But I'm not in the business of fear-mongering, and I believe that if you look around, there are a number of voices out there that produce explicitly, exclusively that sort of content. I'm not fond of the fear-mongering side of things, because if we give in to that, then anything that Blizzard does is going to be seen with that sort of negative slant, like pretty much all the time. Like if we see something cool that we're going to see in WoW, well, then we're going to see it as, oh, this is just damage control from ActiBliz. Something not cool would be so much worse. It would be, one more nail in Blizzard's coffin. So instead of sinking into some new low by calling out other content creators and making drama, I'm going to read a passage from a book called, let me grab it, called The WoW Diary. Yes, I got this just like the other day. It's written by former WoW developer John Statz. I plan on doing a few selective readings over on my Twitch channel, and hey, there's the schedule. That's so convenient. And on top of that, there is a link below where you can pre-order this book because it's not quite out yet. This diary is a textbook of essays. It isn't a corporate promotional piece or fan fluff to collect. I'm not trying to make Blizzard look good. If I am complimentary, it's because I genuinely admire their methods. In the spirit of education, the first thing I would like to impress upon you is one of the most surprising lessons I learned. Public speculation is always wrong. Always. Blizzard operated under a blanket of scrutiny, and only after I was in the meetings could I appreciate how inaccurate public analysis was. Unless you're in the room, you have no idea what's going on. Unless someone knows firsthand the reasons why a company makes decisions, popular conjecture is completely off. For a company as secretive as Blizzard, The tinfoil hat theorizing about why we did anything was severe, cynical, and reactionary. It struck me how people universally assumed corporate decisions were thoughtless or callous, like if a feature was dropped, it was done so without regard for the feelings of the fanbase. When decisions were made for financial grounds, people assumed it was because developers lacked imagination. Whenever technical or gameplay decisions were made, it was assumed the company was penny pinching. I'm not even referring to the trolls dredging the game forums for flame wars. I'm talking about the intelligent, well-substantiated, and reasonable arguments about why Blizzard did this or why Blizzard did that. But all of it was wrong, and certainly not because the fan base was stupid. People were wrong because they considered only variables that were public knowledge, which were only a fraction of the pertinent factors. This passage was written in 2006, but with a 2004 perspective. There's no doubt to me at all that Blizzard has changed greatly over the past 14 or so years, including how much more transparency there is as opposed to before. The moral of the story, and I guess the conversation that I'd love to see in the comments below, is that while we should not be blind to what goes on with the games that we enjoy and the companies that make those games, we don't need to get lost in trying to understand the relationship between the game and the company. So the battery died, that's great, but I guess that's a good time for me to do my free talk. So let me talk a little bit about plans for the channel, some small updates, and what I'm going to be up to during 2019. One is that if you saw behind me, I moved, kind of. I literally just rotated my desk around so you can't see the problematic dresser or any of that nastiness that some of you folks have been calling me out for. I know you guys have been great. Yeah, it hasn't been that bad, but I wanted to turn it around, and so you see what you have there. I do plan on having a lot more stuff put behind me. If anything, just to make it look a little bit cleaner. I know there's some weird colors back there and all, so you can expect that to be spruced up as soon as, probably as soon as the next recording where you see me on screen. I am in the planning process of finally opening up my own Discord channel. One of the things that was holding me back is that I wanted it to have a specific purpose, and so I wanted to reflect the kind of person or the kind of content creator that I am in this WoW space, which is about promoting discussion, providing productive feedback, that sort of thing. So the plan is to have a repository of ideas that I can talk about during my live Twitch streams or weekly topics or video ideas. You'll be able to keep tabs whenever I'm doing streams or uploads, or of course you can turn that crap off if you don't want to have your phone be spammed all the time. And it's going to be my layer for the future when I want to invite folks for a chat, whether it's fans from the channel, Warcraft people, content creators, and that sort of thing. So that also goes into my thing on how I'm still trying to work on doing content creator interviews. So far the plan is to have a format that focuses mostly on them, on them being able to run their mouth, so that you, the viewer, can help to know them personally and give that person, the content creator, a chance to bump themselves while I have a conversation with them about whatever the latest WoW topic is. So I would love to hear your suggestions from you on what sorts of questions would you like me to ask them, or what you would like to hear them talk about, from the World of Warcraft to the business side of content creation to their personal life, if they're single, any of that stuff. What I'm going to do is have that full conversation available over on YouTube, and whether or not I do these live, I haven't decided that yet. And then I'm going to feature them briefly on these Friday weeklies with like one highlight from the interview. The other week, I piloted a add-on feature video, and it was received really well. So I'm going to try and do that every other week or so, maybe even more frequently, where I feature 4 or 5 add-ons based on some theme, and I'll really get into it. I'll deep dive and try to explore it and understand it and regurgitate those thoughts and feelings back to you folks at home. And the hope, once again, is to fill that space and celebrate that side of the community. I'm still working on starting up that Prisoner of Warcraft series that's all about me.
And me.
Right, you're in the room too, okay. So this is going to be a pretty personal story of my life and how it's revolved around the world of Warcraft, this game. I don't know, this might be a fascinating case study for psychologists, I don't know. And on the side, I'm still working on trying to get more shirt designs out there, some more, products and things like that. And otherwise, and I guess I'll just be frank, more ways to tempt you to support the channel. I could always use a little bit more help with getting updated equipment, or even better if I could just move into a new area and have a much cooler space to broadcast and record from. I have a few seconds. Sweet. So thanks to the supporters so far, I'm able to get here. I'm able to get where I am. And with more support, then I'm able to get that much further. So if you're interested, there are links below if you want to donate or sign up to be a patron. But otherwise, just keep watching, keep checking out the channel, keep commenting, keep asking for more and giving your feedback, because I appreciate those things so much. Speaking of feedback, the wavy one, hey, guess what? You're going to get a goodie bag. So contact me over Twitter or send an email to socialbreezy@gmail.com. There's a link below somewhere. Contact me, get me your information, and I will have this thing sent out to you. Please don't live on the moon.
He lives on the moon.
No, I don't want him to live on the moon.
Mars.
So that's it. A little bit of light news, a couple updates here and there, and well, we're good to go for the week. Thanks a ton to all of you for making it to the end, and well, I appreciate all the time that you give to me by watching and continuing to be awesome. Let's make 2019 bright and productive and
more Bob music covers.
And Bob, yeah, sure. But next week, stay tuned for some add-on features and some very important feedback as to, well, how Blizzard can conduct themselves in the future of the world of Warcraft. So I'll see you then. Until then, though, stay safe, stay happy, and stay breezy.